CM Punk signed with WWE in 2005 after making a name for himself on the independent scene, particularly in Ring of Honor. Despite being a strong in-ring performer with exceptional promo skills, he was not viewed as a top-tier talent by WWE management early in his career. When he debuted on the ECW brand in 2006, he was given moderate success, eventually becoming ECW champion, but his push was inconsistent. In 2011, Punk delivered the unscripted pipe bomb promo, publicly criticizing WWE's backstage politics, part-time stars, and corporate favoritism. He called out Vince McMahon and Triple H by name and accused WWE of suppressing wrestlers like him in favor of more marketable, muscle-bound stars. This promo ignited unprecedented fan support and helped launch him into the main event scene. He defeated John Cena at Money in the Bank 2011 and left with the WWE Championship in what was framed as a company rebellion. However, WWE undermined the storyline by having him return after only 8 days. His momentum was disrupted, and within weeks, he was reintegrated into the same hierarchy he had criticized, undercutting the Angle's impact. Instead of continuing his anti-authority momentum, Punk was booked into feuds with Kevin Nash and Triple H that lacked payoff, and later aligned with Paul Heyman in a role that distanced him from the rebellious character fans had rallied behind. Punk eventually held the WWE Championship for 434 consecutive days, a modern-era record. Despite this, he was repeatedly denied marquee positioning. He was forced to play a secondary role to part-time returns like The Rock and The Undertaker, and he was passed over for the WrestleMania main event. Punk later revealed he had pitched matches and long-term ideas that were ignored in favor of last-minute decisions that sidelined his momentum. By 2014, Punk was physically and mentally exhausted. He suffered multiple injuries, including a staph infection that WWE medical staff allegedly failed to diagnose properly. He walked out the day after the Royal Rumble and was suspended without warning. Months later, he received termination papers on his wedding day to AJ Lee, an incident he described as deliberately malicious. After leaving, Punk faced legal threats from WWE and its doctor, resulting in a lengthy lawsuit that he eventually won. The company distanced itself from him publicly, but his name continued to resonate with fans. Despite this, chants for Punk persist at WWE events, and the company's reported attempts to re-sign him years later show how much value they failed to recognize at the time. WWE owes CM Punk an apology for undermining his creative momentum, prioritizing part-time returns over long-term investment in a generational talent, failing to protect his health, and treating his exit with hostility rather than professionalism. Kofi Kingston debuted in WWE in 2008 with a Jamaican gimmick and quickly gained attention for his athleticism and crowd-pleasing style. Over the years, he became known for his high-flying Royal Rumble saves, reliable mid-card performances, and championship reigns in the tag team division. However, despite his longevity and popularity, he was never positioned as a serious singles contender for the WWE Championship until 2019. That changed by accident. In early 2019, an injury to Mustafa Ali created a vacancy in the Elimination Chamber match. Kofi was inserted as a last-minute replacement and delivered a standout performance, including a near victory that generated massive fan support. The hashtag KofiMania began trending as fans rallied around Kingston as a deserving underdog who had paid his dues for over a decade. WWE capitalized on the groundswell by booking Kingston in a WrestleMania 35 storyline against Daniel Bryan. The narrative focused on systemic bias, subtly acknowledging real-world frustrations about how black wrestlers were historically positioned in WWE. At WrestleMania, Kofi won the WWE Championship to an emotional reaction, becoming the first black wrestler to win the title in a singles match at the event. The victory was a milestone in WWE history, symbolizing long-overdue recognition for black talent in the main event scene. Fans saw Kofi's win as a moment of collective payoff for both performer and audience. However, the follow-up was minimal. During his title reign, Kofi was often placed in tag matches and mid-card segments, while Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins dominated the spotlight. He defended the title against Dolph Ziggler, Samoa Joe, and Randy Orton, but most of these matches were secondary on the card. He rarely main-evented pay-per-views, and his feuds often lacked narrative stakes or build-up, signaling a lack of full creative investment in his run. The culmination came on the October 4th, 2019 episode of SmackDown, the show's debut on Fox. Kofi lost the WWE Championship to Brock Lesnar in 8 seconds with a single F5. He received no rematch, no follow-up story, and was immediately returned to the tag team division with no explanation. WWE owes Kofi Kingston an apology for mishandling the aftermath of a landmark title reign. After over a decade of loyalty and fan connection, he was finally given the top spot, only to be quietly removed without narrative payoff, creative respect, or long-term vision. Bray Wyatt signed the dotted line with WWE in 2009 and debuted on the main roster in 2013 as the leader of the Wyatt family. His character, a cryptic, cult-like figure delivering eerie monologues, quickly stood out as one of the most unique personas in the modern era. Early feuds with Kane, Daniel Bryan, and John Cena built his reputation, but despite consistent crowd reactions, he was booked to lose key matches on major pay-per-views, including a high-profile loss to Cena at WrestleMania 30. The Wyatt family was positioned as a dominant faction, but inconsistently booked. Despite strong reactions, they often lost critical matches, including a series of high-profile defeats to The Shield and John Cena that prevented the group from being solidified as top-tier threats. After several years of inconsistent booking, Wyatt was repackaged in 2019 as The Fiend, a dual-personality character combining a cheerful children's show host with a masked, supernatural alter ego. The reinvention was instantly successful. The Fiend's debut attacks were shocking, his presentation was cinematic, and merchandise sales soared. Fans responded positively to the long-term storytelling potential and creative depth of the character. Despite the popularity of The Fiend, WWE's creative handling quickly became erratic. He was booked to lose a Hell in a Cell match against Seth Rollins via referee stoppage, an outcome widely criticized for damaging both characters and the credibility of the match type. He later won the Universal Championship but lost it to Goldberg in under 3 minutes at Super Showdown 2020, a decision that confused fans and derailed The Fiend's mystique. The character's storyline direction became increasingly inconsistent. The Firefly Funhouse segments continued, but match outcomes and feuds lacked coherent structure. His final feud with Randy Orton culminated in a squash match at WrestleMania 37, where The Fiend lost in minutes following a sudden distraction by Alexa Bliss. No follow-up explanation was provided, and the character disappeared from television shortly thereafter. In July 2021, Bray Wyatt was released by WWE despite strong merchandise sales and ongoing fan support. Reports cited budget cuts, but his creative potential was far from exhausted. When he returned in late 2022 with a reimagined version of his character, including the Uncle Howdy storyline, WWE again failed to follow through. The return featured cryptic QR codes, a new mask, and unexplained appearances by Uncle Howdy, but the narrative never advanced beyond scattered vignettes. Wyatt disappeared from programming before his untimely passing in 2023. WWE owes Bray Wyatt an apology for failing to protect the integrity of a once-in-a-generation character. Despite fan enthusiasm and commercial success, creative mismanagement repeatedly undermined his momentum, and key booking decisions squandered the full potential of both the Wyatt family and The Fiend. Dolph Ziggler joined WWE in 2004 and made his main roster debut in 2005 as part of the Spirit Squad, a cheerleader-themed faction that was eventually written off TV. After a brief hiatus and rebranding, Ziggler returned in 2008 under his current ring name. He quickly earned recognition for his athleticism, willingness to take high-impact bumps, and ability to make opponents look strong, an in-ring style that drew comparisons to Shawn Michaels. Throughout his career, Ziggler was frequently praised for stealing the show on pay-per-views and weekly television. In 2010, he won the Intercontinental Championship, beginning a series of mid-card title reigns that solidified his reliability. His biggest moment came on April 8, 2013, when he cashed in his Money in the Bank contract to win the World Heavyweight Championship on Monday Night Raw. The crowd reaction was enormous, and the moment was considered one of the most memorable cash-ins in WWE history. However, the title reign was short-lived. Ziggler suffered a concussion shortly after winning the championship and was forced to vacate momentum during recovery. His return was met with fewer televised wins, diminished mic time, and a drop back into mid-card feuds with little storyline investment. WWE had cooled on his push, and his role shifted from potential main eventer to a reliable performer used to support other talent. Over the next decade, Ziggler remained a featured performer but was rarely positioned as a serious contender in the main event scene. Despite consistently delivering in-ring, he was often used to elevate others, losing in high-profile matches and being inserted into storylines with limited stakes or long-term direction. His versatility made him a go-to performer for multiple roles, but this adaptability often led to short-lived pushes and start-stop booking. WWE frequently promoted Ziggler as someone who could steal the show, but rarely gave him sustained opportunities to do so at the highest level. His 2016 feud with The Miz, which included a high-stakes title versus career match at No Mercy, was critically acclaimed, but not capitalized on afterward. In 2018, he briefly revived his career by winning the Intercontinental title in a feud with Seth Rollins, but was quickly cycled back out of the spotlight. By the late 2010s, he was relegated to sporadic appearances, tag team roles, and non-televised matches, despite still performing at a high level. WWE owes Dolph Ziggler an apology for treating a top-tier in-ring performer as expendable. Rusev signed with WWE in 2010 and debuted on the main roster in 2014 as an undefeated powerhouse with a pro-Russian gimmick managed by Lana. He quickly built momentum by defeating established stars and capturing the United States Championship. His initial presentation emphasized dominance, and he was carefully protected in booking until WrestleMania 31, where he lost to John Cena. The match featured a memorable entrance with Rusev arriving in a tank, but the result marked the end of his undefeated streak and a noticeable shift in how he was treated. After the loss to Cena, Rusev's character experienced a rapid decline in direction. He was moved into a love triangle storyline involving Lana and Dolph Ziggler, which drew criticism for being incoherent and poorly received. The angle diverted attention from his credibility as an in-ring threat and repositioned him as comic relief. Over the next few years, Rusev cycled through mid-card feuds with inconsistent character development. Despite brief pushes and strong performances, he was never re-established at the main event level. In 2017, Rusev unintentionally sparked a grassroots fan movement with the creation of Rusev Day, a comedic gimmick alongside Aiden English that centered around exaggerated patriotism and crowd-pleasing catchphrases. The gimmick caught fire organically, with crowds chanting Rusev Day regardless of his role on the card. Merchandise sales spiked, fan reactions were consistently strong, and live audiences embraced the act as a breakout success. Despite the clear momentum, WWE failed to capitalize on the popularity of Rusev Day. Rusev was not given a significant title run or storyline elevation. He was routinely booked to lose, and the act was gradually phased out without explanation. In later years, he was involved in a controversial love affair storyline with Lana and Bobby Lashley, which again reduced him to comedic material without payoff. The storyline drew widespread backlash for its awkward segments and tone, and Rusev was ultimately written out without resolution. WWE released Rusev in April 2020 as part of budget cuts during the COVID-19 pandemic. WWE owes Rusev an apology for ignoring a genuine fan-driven phenomenon and repeatedly undermining his credibility. His character connected with audiences in multiple roles, monster heel and comedic face, but was never rewarded with sustained creative investment or upward trajectory, despite proving he could deliver in every situation he was placed in. His in-ring style balanced agility, power, and intensity, making him one of the most adaptable performers on the roster. Dean Ambrose joined WWE in 2011 and rose to prominence as a founding member of The Shield alongside Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Debuting in late 2012, The Shield was positioned as a dominant faction that disrupted matches and attacked top stars. Ambrose played the unpredictable, volatile member of the group and quickly became known for his intense promos and unorthodox brawling style. He held the United States Championship for 351 days during this run, the longest reign in WWE history under that title. After The Shield disbanded in 2014, Ambrose transitioned into a singles career. While Rollins was positioned as the corporate-backed future and Reigns as the powerhouse lead, Ambrose was cast as the chaotic underdog. Despite strong crowd reactions and top-level feuds, including a long-running rivalry with Seth Rollins, Ambrose's booking was inconsistent. He frequently lost major matches on pay-per-view and was used in slapstick segments that diluted his credibility as a serious contender. In 2016, Ambrose won the WWE Championship after cashing in his Money in the Bank contract, completing a rare clean sweep where all three Shield members held the title on the same night. While this was a significant achievement, his title reign was short and featured limited main event exposure. During the reign, Ambrose was often booked in comedic or low-stakes feuds, including a rivalry with Dolph Ziggler that failed to showcase him as a dominant champion. He was soon drafted to SmackDown Live, where his momentum stalled in mid-card storylines. By 2018, WWE had positioned Ambrose in a heel turn against Seth Rollins shortly after Roman Reigns announced his leukemia diagnosis. The turn was widely criticized for its timing and presentation. Ambrose's character began wearing gas masks and delivering promos filled with vague symbolism and forced dialogue, deviating from the raw, grounded personality that made him popular. In one segment, he received a vaccination on live TV to protect himself from the fans, a moment that was widely criticized as tone-deaf and out of character. Internally, Ambrose was reported to be frustrated with creative decisions, including poorly scripted promos and lack of direction. In early 2019, WWE confirmed that Ambrose would not renew his contract. His final months featured limited matches and minimal storyline involvement. After leaving, he returned to the independent circuit under his former name, Jon Moxley, and debuted in AEW shortly thereafter. Moxley later revealed in interviews that WWE routinely ignored his creative input, overscripted his promos, and rejected his attempts to portray a more authentic character. His immediate rise to world champion status in AEW highlighted the creative and in-ring potential WWE failed to fully harness. WWE owes Dean Ambrose an apology for failing to capitalize on his strengths as a performer and for placing him in creatively limiting roles that contradicted the character fans connected with. Despite being one of the biggest stars of his generation, he was sidelined by inconsistent booking and forced into narratives that undermined his identity as a credible, compelling main event talent. Cesaro signed with WWE in 2011 after building a reputation across Europe and the independent circuit as Claudio Castagnoli. He debuted on the main roster in 2012 and was immediately praised for his exceptional technical ability, upper body strength, and physical endurance. He quickly won in the United States Championship, delivering strong matches on weekly television and pay-per-view. But despite his in-ring performance, he was not pushed as a major single star. Cesaro's most well-known attributes, his strength-based offense, unique moves like the Cesaro swing, and seamless transitions between power and technical wrestling were regularly highlighted by commentators, but often undercut by a lack of character development. WWE repeatedly positioned him as a great wrestler who can't connect with fans, despite steady crowd support and chants during his matches. This perception became self-reinforcing and limited his upward mobility on the card. In 2014, Cesaro won the inaugural Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale at WrestleMania 30, eliminating Big Show to a strong reaction. He was briefly aligned with Paul Heyman afterward, which was expected to elevate his status, but the pairing lacked on-screen chemistry and quickly dissolved. Their partnership was undercut by Heyman spending most of his promo time referencing Brock Lesnar, which left Cesaro overshadowed and without a distinct identity. The opportunity to capitalize on the post-WrestleMania momentum was lost, and Cesaro returned to the mid-card with no clear direction. Over the next several years, Cesaro was often used in tag teams, most notably with Tyson Kidd and later with Sheamus in The Bar. Despite being placed in tag teams, Cesaro consistently elevated the division, with The Bar becoming one of the most decorated and cohesive units of the modern era. Even after standout performances in multi-man matches and critically praised bouts with stars like John Cena and Roman Reigns, Cesaro was not granted sustained singles pushes or a long-term character arc. His lack of a major singles title reign became a recurring criticism amongst fans who regularly called for him to be pushed to the top. In 2021, Cesaro finally received a short-lived singles spotlight, defeating Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 37 and entering a brief feud with Roman Reigns. Despite showing he could hold his own in a main event context, the push ended abruptly. He returned to the mid-card with little explanation and departed WWE in early 2022 after his contract expired, reportedly turning down renewal offers due to creative dissatisfaction. WWE owes Cesaro an apology for consistently underestimating the crowd connection and value of elite in-ring performance. Despite delivering at every level, Cesaro was repeatedly slotted beneath his potential due to the company's narrow view of charisma and marketability. Zack Ryder signed with WWE in 2006 and gained early exposure as part of the Edgeheads, a tag team aligned with Edge. After the group disbanded, Ryder transitioned into a solo role but struggled for screen time on WWE programming. In 2011, he took an unorthodox approach by launching his own YouTube series, Z, True Long Island Story, which featured comedy segments, catchphrases, and direct interaction with fans. The show quickly gained traction, earning millions of views and helping Ryder develop a loyal fan base without any direct support from WWE's creative team. The online popularity translated into live event reactions. Fans began chanting Ryder's name during unrelated matches, and signs referencing the YouTube show became commonplace at WWE events. In response to the overwhelming support, WWE gave Ryder a modest push. He won the United States Championship in December 2011 at the TLC pay-per-view, culminating a grassroots rise that was largely driven by his own effort. However, the push was short-lived. Within weeks, Ryder was scripted into a storyline where he was beaten repeatedly, humiliated on television, and used as comic relief in a love triangle angle involving Eve Torres and John Cena. In one storyline, he was kayfabe injured and forced to wear a neck brace, then repeatedly assaulted while portrayed as helpless, further reducing his credibility. He lost the US title in January 2012 and was largely removed from prominent storylines by mid-year. The momentum generated by his online content and crowd support was not followed up with any long-term creative investment. Over the next several years, Ryder remained on the roster but was mostly confined to lower card matches and tag team roles. Despite delivering consistently in the ring, he became known more for sporadic nostalgia pops than any sustained storyline involvement. His surprise Intercontinental Championship win at WrestleMania 32 in 2016 was well received but lasted only one day, and he was once again relegated to the undercard. WWE owes Zack Ryder an apology for failing to reward his initiative and for actively undermining a self-made rise. Ryder did what few wrestlers have ever done: get over entirely on his own, and was punished for it. Instead of recognizing his value, WWE minimized his role, cutting short a career that could have evolved into something far more significant. Years later, his approach to self-promotion would become a blueprint for how modern wrestlers build personal brands through social media and online content. Mustafa Ali signed with WWE in 2016 and gained initial visibility through the Cruiserweight Classic tournament. Though not originally scheduled to participate, he was added as a last-minute replacement and impressed with his athletic style and clean in-ring technique. He went on to compete regularly on 205 Live and eventually transitioned to SmackDown Live, where his performances quickly stood out in multi-man matches and high-profile bouts, including a standout showing at the 2019 Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. Ali was initially scheduled to take part in the 2019 Elimination Chamber match that led to Kofi Kingston's rise, but he was removed due to injury. While Kofi Mania took off in his absence, WWE positioned Ali as a rising star later that year, giving him prominent television time and character vignettes that emphasized his background as a former police officer and community advocate. However, this push was short-lived and plans were quickly dropped without explanation. In 2020, WWE reintroduced Ali as the leader of the faction Retribution, a masked vigilante-style group positioned as disillusioned wrestlers aiming to disrupt the system. The angle was poorly received due to inconsistent booking and presentation. Ali, though positioned as the leader, was given little screen time to explain his motivations, and the group was booked to lose frequently, making them appear directionless and ineffective. The group's motivations were never clearly defined. As the stable collapsed, Ali's character suffered, and he was left without a follow-up storyline or a redemption arc. Ali later began presenting socially relevant promos in backstage segments discussing discrimination, bias, and his real-life experiences as a Muslim American. These segments were praised by fans online for their honesty and depth, but they were largely confined to digital platforms and did not result in a renewed push on television. Wrestling media and fans praised his authenticity and originality, with many calling for WWE to give him a larger platform. Despite his ability to connect with audiences through his promos, character work, and match quality, Ali was not consistently featured. In January 2022, Ali publicly requested his release from WWE, citing creative frustrations. The company denied the request and kept him off television for several months. He eventually returned, but was sporadically used in undercard matches with little storyline involvement. Throughout his time with the company, Ali was recognized for his professionalism, never missing time due to disciplinary issues or poor performance. WWE released him in 2023 during a wave of talent cuts. WWE owes Mustafa Ali an apology for repeatedly starting and stopping his momentum without reason, underutilizing a performer who consistently demonstrated talent, range, and dedication. Whether positioned as a face or heel, Ali showed the ability to deliver, but was continually sidelined by erratic booking and a lack of creative follow-through. Shayna Baszler signed with WWE in 2017 following a successful career in mixed martial arts and a strong run in independent wrestling. She quickly established herself as a dominant force in NXT using a technical submission-based style backed by real combat credentials. Baszler won the NXT Women's Championship in 2018 and became the brand's most dominant female champion at the time, holding the title for a combined 548 days across 2 reigns. Her booking was consistent and decisive, with clean victories and strong character protection. In 2020, Baszler was called up to the main roster and introduced in dramatic fashion by attacking Becky Lynch and biting her neck, an angle intended to portray her as a dangerous and unpredictable threat. She entered the Elimination Chamber match shortly after and eliminated all 5 of her opponents, a first in the match's history. This decisive win was designed to build her as a legitimate contender for Becky Lynch's Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania 36. Despite the dominant build, Baszler lost to Lynch at WrestleMania in a match that lasted just over 8 minutes and ended with a surprise roll-up. The finish was criticized for undercutting Baszler's momentum and failing to establish her as a credible main event threat. The loss not only stopped her momentum, but also framed her as beatable by conventional means, negating months of dominant build-up. The loss marked a turning point, as Baszler was never given a full redemption arc or a strong follow-up storyline. Instead, she was gradually repositioned as a tag team wrestler. Over the next several years, Baszler was paired with Nia Jax and later Ronda Rousey, winning the Women's Tag Team Championships but rarely featured in single feuds of significance. Her MMA legitimacy was mentioned in commentary but rarely used to define match psychology or build storylines. Matches were often short, directionless, or used to elevate other talent, and her character presentation was increasingly inconsistent. Reports at the time indicated that upper management, including Vince McMahon, had reservations about Baszler's style and marketability as a top-tier solo act. These concerns reportedly influenced creative decisions, limiting her exposure despite her credentials. WWE owes Shayna Baszler an apology for failing to capitalize on her dominant NXT presentation and for sidelining a uniquely legitimate performer in favor of more conventional characters. Despite her proven track record, Baszler was repositioned without narrative, justification, and denied the opportunity to build on the momentum she carried from NXT.